If you're struggling because your serve is inconsistent or it's just not starting the rally to your advantage, then you're going to want to stick with me in today's video because I'm going to show you the best serve in pickleball. Not only is it the best serve, it is quite possibly the serve that's easiest on your body. I'm going to show you what the serve needs to accomplish, how to get more power, how to gain more control, and a step-by-step way to do it so that you can go out to the courts and hit this serve later today. Hey everybody, my name is CJ Johnson, and here at Better Pickleball, we help players over 50 live their best lives on and off the pickleball courts. First, let's talk about the objectives of the serve, because once you really understand the purpose, you will make better decisions about the type of shots that you'll hit. So the very first thing is a serve needs to be reliable. Now, it is true that when you're playing traditional scoring in pickleball, if you miss a serve, the only thing that happens is either your partner gets the serve or the serve goes over to your opponents. So in traditional pickleball scoring, you don't lose a point. But the reason that the serve needs to be reliable is it's often tied to our confidence. I mean, if we miss the first shot of the rally, sometimes it can be hard to recover and play your best later on in the rally. So number one, it needs to be reliable. The second most important characteristic of the serve is it needs to be deep. Now here's the thing. I know that many of you face players that have serves that spin and that have serves that maybe come out at a short angle. But typically, the one characteristic of a serve that makes it tough on the returner is the depth of the serve. So when I'm talking depth on a serve, I am talking about placing the serve somewhere around 4 feet from the baseline. Now, if you've got a great reliable serve, I would even say take that to be 2 feet from the baseline. So when that serve is deep, what it does is it pushes the returner farther away from the non-volley zone. And the returner's job is to try to get to the non-volley zone to take the positional advantage that's given to them by the rules of pickleball before the fourth shot. So that deep serve, again, 4 to 2 feet from the baseline, pushes them further back. Another positive to that deep serve is many times you're going to see players who stand relatively close to the baseline as the returner. If they're close to the baseline and you hit that serve deep, they're going to have to move backwards to hit the shot. And if they do that successfully, and move backwards and are still able to hit the shot, usually that will result in a short return. So either by making the player's job harder to get to the NVZ or by getting a short return, that is a successful serve. And it doesn't have to spin, it doesn't have to be at a short angle, all it has to be is deep. And that type of serve is easier to hit, easier on your body, and easier on your stroke mechanics. Are you planning to attend a pickleball camp this year? If you are, grab our free guide, The 3 Biggest Mistakes Pickleball Players Make When Choosing a Pickleball Camp, and more importantly, how to avoid them. So first of all, there are 2 types of serves, and let's just talk about those briefly. There is the volley serve, and for a long time, the volley serve was the only serve in pickleball. That's made when I simply take the ball out of the air. Now, when I hit that volley serve, there are some rules that govern how the paddle moves and where the paddle needs to be at contact. On the drop serve, that's a serve that was added, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. The drop serve, there are no rules about what the paddle has to do. There are rules, but it's just rules around the drop. Now, rather than dive deep into the rules here, I'm going to put a link right up here, and I go in depth into the rules that govern both the volley serve and the drop serve. While either of those two serves are legal, I am a big fan of the drop serve, especially for those of you who don't come from a racket sport. When you're using the volley serve, there's timing that needs to happen between the release of the ball and the contact with the paddle. And what often happens when the timing isn't exact, a player will make contact. Here's the sweet spot on this paddle. A player will make contact somewhere other than the sweet spot. When it's not on the sweet spot, the ball is not going to travel as far, and it may also go off to the sides. So there's timing that happens on that volley serve that doesn't happen in the same way on the drop serve. By allowing the ball to drop, by here it's dropping, I get some space between the ball hitting the court and coming up to the correct position for me to now make contact with the paddle. Not only is the timing easier on the drop serve, another thing that happens is it's easier to involve your core. Now, a lot of players have a hard time getting the volley serve deep because as they do it, all they tend to do is to use their arm. By doing this serve, the drop serve, I am now in a position where I can, from the ground, from my lower body, I can turn my legs and I can use my core, which will get me more power, which means the ball goes deeper. And the last thing that I love about the drop serve is you have so much more freedom. You can use any type of swing that you would like to. If you prefer to have the paddle with, this is called a hinged wrist, a little bit more hinged versus down here, you can do that. Whereas in the volley serve, you can't do those things. So the drop serve gives you a lot more freedom and it's so much easier on your body. All right, now that you're sold on the drop serve, let's walk step by step through the mechanics. So the very first thing that we want to talk about is the drop. Now again, here's a link to the video that talks about the rules of the drop. I'm not going to cover that in this video. I just want to talk about the optimal drop. Now, the optimal drop for players is just to simply hold the ball out here at about 45-degree angle. By holding the ball up here, I am going to get the height of the ball, the apex of the shot is going to be about right there, which will allow me to make a nice arm swing through the shot. If I take, and instead of 45 degrees, if I lower it to here, and I see a lot of players do that, they put it about chest height and then let it drop, you're going to see a very substantial difference. So now a player has to get much lower, and for many of us, that's harder on the body. So the ideal drop again is by holding the arm up at 45 degrees. I know that some of you might be thinking, well, CJ, if 45 degrees is great, what about if I hold it higher? Well, if I take that same position and I hold it higher, what actually happens is when I drop it, the ball now comes in towards my body. So it's not the ideal position for me to swing the paddle to the ball. So you want to hold that out here at about a 45-degree angle. The next thing on the drop serve is this serve can help you aim. What I like to do is, again, we talked about, we have a target that is on the other side that's somewhere between 4 and 2 feet from the baseline, and it's in the center of the court. What I want to do is I want to angle my shoulders in a manner that allows me to swing the paddle at my target. So what you'll notice is instead of standing straight or where I'm parallel to the baseline, I've angled my body towards my target. That's going to make it easier for me to aim and to gain more control over the shot. All right, so I'm dropping at 45 degrees. I've got my body angled to my target. Now, all I simply want to do is I want to think about following through on a line from my paddle to my target. If I have a follow through that goes from the point of contact all the way through to my target on the court, chances are that's where the ball is going to go as well, and that's going to give me, again, maximum control. So drop, angle, and then follow through to your target. It's almost a feeling like if I had a paddle and I was gonna throw it, from my hands, I was just gonna throw it right to my target. That's the feeling that you wanna have. Now, the last step to this is not to rush the shot, meaning between the drop, you're gonna let the ball apex, and that's the time that ideally you wanna make contact with the shot. If you allow the ball to drop and then rush the contact, you're risking your control as well as not hitting it on the sweet spot. So you want to make sure that you space it out, that you have some timing there. If you struggle with the timing, a good drill, a good thing to help you with the timing is using the words bounce, hit. That comes from the inner game of tennis. Tim Galloway wrote it many, many years ago. And what you do is when the ball bounces, you say bounce. And when you make contact, you say hit. So let's put it all together. I'm gonna stand here. I've got my arm at about 45 degrees. I have got an angle to my target, and I'm going to use the words bounce, hit to help me with the timing. Bounce, hit. You do that each and every time, you are going to get a deep serve, and it'll be so much easier on your body. So take it to the courts and go try it, because together we can train smart, live bold, and age well.